We're working on our Valentine Better Together quilt, and we've cut out a lot of our pieces. Y'all been watching me cut those out. So now let's talk about how we're going to applique them to our fabric for our quilt blocks. Now what y'all are seeing right here is me using a zigzag stitch. I'm going to slow it down in a minute and show you exactly what I did, but I want you to see the big picture so you understand what I'm showing you. I'm using a zigzag stitch and I'm going around. Now you do need to go around 2 times because a zigzag stitch is a little bit different than a straight stitch, and from experience, I know that if you go around 1 time, whenever it catches on something after years of use, it will start to come undone, and we don't want that. So we're going to go around twice, plus that makes sure if we missed one of the edges of our fabric, we catch it the second time. So I'm zigzagging on the very outside edge of the piece of my applique, and I'm not using white thread. I'm using a thread that coordinates or blends with whatever I'm sewing on, because the white thread, I feel like, yells at you, and we don't want that. This is the front of my sewing machine. When I turn my sewing machine on, this is what I see. I want to get to a zigzag stitch. Number 3 is a zigzag because it tells me so right here. So I'm going to go up here to number 3, just like this. I've sewn my bread and I've sewn my peanut butter. And do you see how I've sewn that with a thread color that doesn't yell at you? I recommend you don't use white, that you use something that matches the fabric that you're sewing. I'm going to change my thread to this purple and I'm going to sew that around. We have our machine set on zigzag and we have purple thread. So now I'm going to come right here and I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to go slow at first so that y'all can see. Don't forget to backstitch because my grandma said so. I try to guide my fabric through the center of my presser foot. As you do this, you'll get the feel of your machine and it will get easier and better. And remember, you're going around 2 times. So if you miss the edge of something, that's okay. You can catch it when you go around the second time. And because you're using the color of thread that matches your fabric, it's not going to yell at you if it's not perfect. Just remember, slow and steady, and to give yourself a lot of grace. We don't point out flaws over here because I have plenty and I don't want anybody pointing mine out. And life lesson, if they're pointing them out, they're not your people. So we're not going to point our own out and nobody else is going to see them. And your quilt is going to be amazing. Lots of questions about the length of the zigzag stitch. And I'm going to be honest, I leave mine on whatever the factory settings are. When I put it on zigzag, that's where it stays. Because I could change the length and width, but guess what? Next time I sit down, I'll forget what I had it on. So then I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. So we don't do that. We just leave it always on factory settings. So my stitches are always the same. But if you have a different setting that you prefer, that's perfectly fine too. Now after you've done your applique, we're going to add our border pieces. We have 2 pieces that are 3 inches by 18 inches because our block is 18 by 18, and we have 1 piece that's 3 inches by 3 inches. So the first thing we're going to do is set this to the side. We're going to take this piece, our block face up, our border piece face down, pretty side to pretty side. And we're going to sew all the way down this edge right here with a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to get the 1/4 inch seam by following the edge of my fabric with the edge of my presser foot. And don't forget to backstitch when you begin and when you end because my grandma said so. So we have 1 border piece on. Now we're going to get the pieces we set to the side, and we're going to take our 3 by 3 inch block, lay it on top of our 3 by 18 inch strip, and we are going to sew right here. We put this border on the top. We're going to take this to the top right corner, right here, and lay it over just like that. You're gonna make sure these seams line up. It doesn't even matter if this doesn't line up. We don't care. We want this seam to match right here. You're gonna stitch and back stitch, so a 1/4 inch seam, following the edge of your presser foot with the edge of your fabric. We are only putting border pieces on the top and the right side of each block. We're going to iron it and start on our next block. Let's see what we made. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.